Hey, how you doing there? My name is Tomlin's Nyback. This is 365 days towards racial change. It's day 322 going in the books. We're here talking about Black issues in America, how Black figures in to the overall landscape, the discourse, conversation in America. Are we ask ourselves our questions? Some questions: Are we getting better? Is there equalization? Um, uh, as a group, how are we faring economically, competitively with one another compared to other groups, white specifically, white majority, white power in the land? And how do these things, um, where are we at in any cycle, in any life? Are we simply consumers? Are we simply laborers? Is that all the Black person is, labor and consumption? Or are there business minds, leaders in the Black community, people with sustainable morality? Let me put it, say that, a morality that uh, is a burdensome and loyal, confined to the betterment of the group, then branching out to maybe help others, include others, and all that. But are we concerned that, um, with seeing Black people with a kind of a pride of, the optics of Black folks, where it's common for us, uh, to be well to do, to live in spacious places, quiet neighborhoods, large buildings for homes. Well, that's when that becomes the norm for Black people. Then maybe videos like this will disappear. I'd love to see that. Put me out of work, right? I came through a lot of rehab, shelter systems, and things like that. You don't see them scrambling to be out of work. Like, could you imagine police police folks saying, law enforcement, judicial system, put me out of work? Because, well, for one thing, criminals are stupid enough to keep doing it, so it keeps the system going, right? So that's their part. Our part, I got my little ticky tack stuff out there. Um, but you don't see law enforcement. Oh, please put me out of work, right? What are we gonna do? Oh boy. See, Black folks, we need to employ ourselves. You know, these videos, this vision, Dr. Anderson's work, it's all these are all seeds. I personally recognize that if the future has the fruition of the elevation of Black folks in America to where 100% of school children and school children do not qualify for school lunches. Matter of fact, they don't even have the cafeteria because an au pair is making their lunches, right? If they're at that financial level, um, to have an au pair is just it's a little maid for your children, right? Like, can you? This is if you Google here at YouTube 365 days au pair, and you'll see me. It's because I met one, and she was a fabulous little Chinese girl and stuff. but it blew me away. I had to do a piece on it because the power group, essentially white folks, they got their maids and stuff for the grown-ups, but they are conditioning their children to have help in the house. It's amazing. Like that privilege has those options that the kids have their own thing. Wow, that's I'm blown away. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm blown away. So look, wealth cycles. Let's just get right to it. This is pretty can be a pretty involved What I want to do, and Dr. Anderson does this. Well, let me introduce this first. I had the book open, so I was ready to launch in, but let me go into some standard format here so we can just be on the same page. I'm on fire about this work and this burden because I was sinking lower and lower in America's system, and there's a whole lot of there's financial, there's racism, capitalism, there's preference in workplaces, leadership, all this stuff. Age in America is an issue, and I kept sinking lower and lower. I'm in this quicksand, and I can't get out. And a nice black friend uh, said, "Check this guy out." I started watching his videos, and I was like, "That is my problem." And my problem is I'm ignorant of America's racist, capitalist, um, way. Well, I'll just say I'm ignorant of it. I don't know how to navigate it. It's like picture in my head comes to a surfer, right? I got a surfboard. I got all the equipment. I'm in my shorts. I'm tethered to the board. I think it's the ankle. I'm tethered to the board. I'm in the same ocean. Because there's white, there's other people on boards in the ocean, and they are catching a wave and having a nice fun time to the shore. But I got the board sideways, and I can't figure out how to catch the wave. And it's like Dr. Anderson is like, hey, you know, line yourself up and get pointed and catch the wave, and you'll have a fun time back to shore, like your counterparts. That's one illustration. I could probably come up with others, but anyway, I have the ammunition on. My eyes are awake and open to America's sometimes subtle, sometimes very overt. In my workplace, my manual labor workplaces, I was just getting run over by younger white male. So that's a little background about how I've come to have 322 videos on YouTube. I still got to catch up on 199. I misspoke. I thought it was 119. But number 199, I've got to redo. Google did not like it. I'm going to do the same thing. I just have to tweak some stuff. But Dr. Anderson, he wrote a bunch of works. I've read three. Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask, Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power, and Economic Justice, and Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, PowerNomics. You can find Dr. Anderson here on YouTube and PowerNomics.com. Behind me, you see the hashtag #US2 symbol. You find Black women coming together, having some community, resources, and support. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, like a kind of black Facebook experience. Check out Dr. Boyce Watkins at the Black Business School. If you've got an entrepreneurial mind And if you have some free time, which you might now, if you have internet access, you're out of work, stay-at-home orders, check out Uncle Tom's Cabin. I bet you there's a PDF full version somewhere online of that fictional account of the slave America, although it's informed by real events. Very great book. We've gone through that whole text here at Racial Change and might revisit some portions for review as we get closer to our goal 365. All right, we're in PowerNomics. Page 127 has the illustration we'll be working off of. It's the wealth cycle we're talking about. Right now, we may be in the technology, labor-saving machinery area of this cycle. It's important to think about as we go through this global financial reset, how this, where this wealth cycle may fit. Maybe some parts of it have been abbreviated and some have suddenly exploded. But we'll see how this goes. What we're going to do, we're going to talk mostly about America's development, America's history, if you will, with Dr. Anderson's wealth cycle. He's got 4 points on this cycle. First, you gain natural resources. Then you have this slavery or human labor to handle the resources, technology, labor-saving machinery, number 3, and finally, that as that has been perfected, we just have information, manipulation of symbols is what he calls it, right? And these are the 4 phases, and we can see this in America's history. Right through the 1400s, Europe, that they've been warring with each other, just bored. Like, do you really have to go to war and stuff and fight over space, right, and dominate? Well, that's a whole nother philosophical thing going on in history. But anyway, the wars had depleted each other. Disease was also assaulting the space, and they were desperate to find some new resources or anything, and not just Christopher Columbus. If you look at history, Christopher Columbus in 1492 and all the rhymes. Yeah, he came over, but there were a lot of people who actually, I think, have legitimate claims to have visited the Western Hemisphere at one point in time or another. But I guess technology-wise, they had shipbuilding or whatever had gotten to the point where we could take longer voyages more consistently and return, right? It's a whole cycle. You ain't just they're just going out and disappearing and whatnot. You can start to go for long voyages and start to come back. They go to the drawing board, refix, and so that gets going. Anyway, they find Americas, the Western Hemisphere, and it's just raw resources, land. The indigenous people are scattered, not very organized, and not technologically advanced as the Europeans with guns and stuff like that. So Europeans just came, moved the Native American out the way, get those resources. Now what? Well, we ain't got enough people, and we don't have, the Europeans don't enslave each other like they're going to do the black men. And also, after a few hundred years, they decide to cast off the chains from Europe, complaining that they're being oppressed and taken advantage of and all that. As soon as they get rid of that, with the help of black folks, they turn around and enslave black folks in the same way on steroids um, as the crown in Europe used to do that to them. So that's our natural resources phase in the wealth cycle. Securing it. Now you got to get it, process it, and stuff like that. Get it out the ground, off the vine. Get at the roots of it. Get to the cotton and stuff like that. So the big old industry creeps up behind that, and you need raw human labor. And black people, such a resilient, hardy people, for a lot of interesting things. I want to try to do some real historical study, because I don't see black people as being that docile and easily, but there had to be a whole lot of other things going on to get a million black folks from Africa and keeping something more than death, pain, physical brutality had to be employed to keep black people in such a disadvantaged situation for that long a period of time. I recognize there's mental, they employed a lot of mental warfare against black people and all that. So it's a big thing. But anyway, step 2 in the wealth cycle is slavery, raw human labor, and you're going to see these elements to some degree in America. It's just which one is really blown up, which one can you get out in front of and leverage to your advantage to put you in a space of success. So those are the first two. They found natural resources, shipping in labor from Africa. Next, technology and labor-saving devices. Now, this almost helped black people, and this is one of the times where technology technology always is going to be detrimental to the lowest rungs of society. Let's illustrate. So during slavery, you had Eli Whitney came out with the cotton gin because it was a pain in the ass to get the damn seeds out of the cotton to process it to make your fabrics. Well, he made a little combing machine that, revolutionized suddenly. And the rumor is he wanted to make life easier for slaves. I don't know. But, greed is absolute. Absolute, and always reaching for more. So his little cotton gin and little wind up thing, he just went at it. He made it. People loved it. I'm sure they built massive ones. So the demand for cotton just went exponentially upward. Slaves had to produce more and stuff like that, and demand for slaves increased. Oh, that's that was one time the bottom rung of society suffered, but they suffered by working harder. Interesting enough, we have here this 1900s cotton picking machines. Industrialization really came in. Anytime you get a little jump or bump in automation, your need for labor goes down. Now that's what Eli Whitney really wanted to happen. In this case, it was a different thing going on. But now, 1900s cotton picking machines came along. Need for labor goes down. I used to work for a guy. I used to pick blueberries, and his field was a beautiful field. but he maintained hand picking, right? And I think that's what made the field so beautiful. It was tended to, it was touched. Now, right next to his blueberry field was another blueberry field. And these guys, they had this giant tractor machine, just raping the uh, blueberries. And there were trees, and it was the field was overgrown, and they didn't care, and all this stuff. Ugly field. Somehow they made money out of it, right? White folks. Unfortunately, the guy I picked for, I'm sure he sold his field to some white folks. And they came with their machines, and I doubt it looks, I've not been back up in there lately, but I doubt it looks as beautiful as when the guy I worked for um, demanded that we hand pick these um, the blueberries. Technology, labor saving, that's step three. Now, once that gets going, once that machine is going, it's working, becoming profitable, then you get to your handling information and um, man- manipulating symbols. It's about let's say you're marketing, advertising, and stuff like that. You perfected this thing. You're just kind of sitting there waiting for the next big thing almost to come through. Think about that. In contemporary times. I'm a little older, so I've come through the '80s when Bill Gates came through, and then Microsoft and Apple had their battles and stuff like that. And you see that same thing where, um, that they kind of they perfect some language to make computers accessible to the general public and the general masses. Then you have a global rush, and I was working for a oh a well-known carrier, a distributor, you know, of stuff, mail people type thing, and you might, I don't know how old you are, but I don't know if you remember your monitors and televisions used to be this wide, right? I mean, your monitors, boom, it took up your whole desk, and it had this big deep well on it and all this stuff. And now we're these what you're probably watching on your device, the screen is probably less than an inch thick, right? That's a pretty amazing, but that's the cycle I've seen happen, especially with technology and computers. And it's the same thing. We that's the good thing about us humans. We keep refining and we make things smaller, faster, and all that. It's too bad it does not correlate with privilege, power, access to wealth, and whatnot. The whole world would be a different place, but people are just stuck. But I guess people who are stuck on greed and wealth and increase look at people like me and like, hey, why are those people always, they're such a drag on the system, and they're always complaining that there's inequality and stuff, right? I bet you there are. Who knows? So that's generally the wealth cycle. Very important today in our virus, global reset, economic reset. You know, it's interesting. I don't see CNN's very focused domestically right now because death, right? They're like they're being almost vampirous on death, right? So we don't have no idea what's going on. I haven't heard anything out of other countries since we just are glued. I mean, one thing I do, I've been I got my little calculator up, and so I'm watching the percentage of deaths compared to those diagnosed with the virus, and I'm watching that go up, right? So I've got a little bit of it too, but I'd still like to hear what's going on in South Korea, um, Italy, Japan, Russia, things like that. Um, Wherever we're at, I mean, there's just a whole unique bit of circumstances going on. I've been talking about since I got these videos going again, since we're homebound, not working. I'm actually in school, finishing up a degree in philosophy anyway. But it's like, what is, if we can find, kind of gauge where we're at, we can take some opportunities. Now, right now, if for the people who did not rightfully orient themselves, one of the biggest stories I remember growing up is the ant and the cricket or something, and all summer long the ant. Oh, maybe he has some downtime. He'll have a cigarette and chill out a little bit. But for the most part, every time the other creatures were playing in the sun, and having so much fun, and loving the sunshine and all that. But the ant is going to work, always working, you know. And then when the weather changed and winter hit, some of the other creatures were like, "Oh my God, I'm out of food." The ant's just chilling. You know, he's got his big stockpile ready for winter. Now it was time to have some ease and relax a little bit. Remember when I was homeless, I was slept on a lot of sidewalks and stuff like that, and I was pretty far down. So, and I'm sleeping on just on concrete. And there's this one place. It was a little gazebo, but it housed a the filtration system for a pool. So it was warm at night. It was a nice place to sleep for homelessness, if you can imagine. Anyway, I went to sleep, but in the cracks of the concrete all night long, and I'm rolling around trying to get comfortable on the concrete. But all night long, right underneath me, the ants are going back and forth working all night long, and just in the crack, I can see them in the cracks of the concrete working. Ants don't stop. They don't even see. Ants are blind anyhow, I think. They don't. They just don't have some of some of the human hangups. Yeah, but all night long, I never forget that night on that concrete. Come back in the day, they're right there, all back and forth. Come back at night, all back and forth, working, carrying supplies and stuff. That's pretty. You can learn a lot from an ant. I know you've heard that before. We need to take this time, take a time to, get in position um, to be come out on the other side of this health and financial crisis, come out ahead. If not ahead, learn. Be so emotional and worked up that you begin, once your life stabilizes wherever you find yourself, begin to be in a space where, you know what, I don't care if stock markets crash and all this, because I mean, notice like some of these big financial things, boy, there's somehow somebody finds a way to succeed, not suffer, and it's not even a bump in the road. You want to be that person. How do you get to that position? How do you say whether the market's up or down, I'm winning. Unemployment rate up or down, I'm winning. How do you put yourself in that position? I think you know the answer. I know for me, right? Um, stop spending, stop wasting money. For me, it was crack cocaine, alcohol. Stepped away from that. Now I'm like, you know what? The money I spend, except for food, the money I spend's got to go do some work. A percentage, if not a a, um, a profit, must come back when I spend some money. Right? My education, maybe your mortgage, car payments, insurances, those are different products. That's a whole different thing. But I've surrounded my life with a lot of important things that keep me occupied. Get a hobby, right? But whatever, like, no, man. And I'm not putting my money out there unless I know it's coming back. Just like if I work, if I sell my labor, I'm getting something back. Well, then I need to. Uh, it's very important that my money, my finance, that I talked, I think about a $20 bill been sitting in my wallet for about more than a month now, because I'm waiting for an opportunity. When is that? When is spending that $20 bill going to mean that I'm getting a percentage of it back in liquid resources? Not some name and some recognition or something like that. No, no, no. The $20 needs to go to work and then come back. You know, I'm looking for profit. I want to put that $20 out there, get $40 back. Hey, $60 back. Where's that opportunity at? I bet you it's out there. Stay on top of this wealth cycle. Natural resources, human labor, technology, then information, and it starts all over again. Be on the winning side once this thing comes back around again. I'm Tomlin's Nyback. 365 days towards racial change. Day 322 is out of the way. Come see us next time.